Hello, I'm the Greek Geek because I'm 50% Greek and 100% a geek. I haven't seen this movie in easily over 10 years, and is it as bad as I remember? Yes and no. Two Terminators are sent back in time. One of those Terminators are trying to kill John Connor's future lieutenants and eventually John Connor himself. And one of the other Terminators are trying to save them whilst John Connor is trying to prevent Judgment Day. Yep, that is basically the plot of Terminator 2.
The life you know, all the stuff you take for granted, it's not gonna last.
So Arnold Schwarzenegger is back as the T-101 Terminator, one that's a slight upgrade over the previous Terminator. It can do new stuff like lie and I don't even know what else it can do. It's just a very slight upgrade. Kristanna Loken plays the TX or the Terminatrix, which is the new Terminator villain in this, and I kind of like the concept of this Terminator. It's kind of like a mix of like the T-800 and the T-1000, has a bit of liquid metal going, but still has like a body, chassis, whatever you want to call it, and has a cool range of weapons too. And the idea that it's a Terminator that terminates other Terminators is an interesting concept in itself, and I'll get into that later. Now, Nick Stahl plays John Connor in this, and he doesn't really feel like a John Connor at all. Like, he doesn't really look like Edward Furlong from the previous movie, and he doesn't really strike me as someone who's going to be a very strong resistance leader in the future, because he's just kind of a junkie, just doesn't have any kind of responsibility. He doesn't really do that much in this movie, I don't think. But they try and pass him off, he's going to be this cool future leader, because they have that flash forward, if you will, into the future, and it's him as the leader that he's going to be, and I'm like, I'm not really sold on that. Claire Danes is Kate Brewster, and she's in the movie to show that John Connor likes girls. She doesn't really do that much other than get kidnapped by Arnold Schwarzenegger and try to help Ted down Steiner. I suppose she does fly the plane in the end. And her fiance that dies in the movie, she gets over him pretty quickly, so alright. One thing I noticed with how Arnold and Kristanna acted when they were like being the Terminators is they seem to walk a lot more robotic than what they used to in previous movies. Like in previous movies you could tell they didn't really walk naturally, but in this one they walked kind of weirdly. Like they would like turn their heads every single time and then turn their body around. I noticed that a lot in this movie and it looked a bit weird. I don't think Arnold or any of the other Terminators in the previous movies, or even in future movies, did that. Just struck me as weird.
Imagine a world of permanent darkness, where machines control man's destiny. Imagine you were the only one who could stop it.
The movie is directed by Jonathan Mostow, written by John Brancato and Michael Ferris. So yeah, no involvement from James Cameron at all. And it really shows. Like, this movie just feels like a B movie. It doesn't feel like a Hollywood blockbuster. It just feels like a low budget B movie. The acting and dialogue is just pretty bad. There's some awkward dialogue in there. I feel like it's a pretty bad follow-up to Terminator 2, considering how great that movie was. Well, I guess they'd have a hard time trying to up Terminator 2, but it really falls short. It's not as bad as I remember it, and it's not as bad as future Terminator movies, but it's still not that great. I think that the main plot of the movie wasn't even introduced until over halfway into the movie. Luckily, the movie is pretty short. It goes for just over an hour and a half. So the T-101 is shown to be a slightly more advanced model over the T-100 or T-800, whatever you want to call it. The Terminator can use more emotion, or that's just the bad acting in this movie, because the Terminators seem to show a bit more emotion in this movie. The Terminator can lie, he adapts to human behavior more quickly, and he knows basic psychology, I guess, which involves choking someone when they're being hysterical. So I don't know if that's what you psychologists do when someone's being hysterical, but yeah, I don't think so. Now the TX, that is a very cool concept. I like the concept of the Skynet needing a Terminator that can terminate Terminators, because the Terminators can eventually kind of think for themselves as they learn, so they probably learn a lot more and then like, oh no, I'm not going to follow Skynet's orders anymore. So that would be interesting that Skynet would need to kill Terminators that go rogue, and I wish they explored that more in other movies, but they don't. And one line I didn't really understand is that they talk about how there's a whole assembly line of T-800s or T-101 Terminators, Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminators. That would be interesting that Skynet would need Terminator to kill that the Resistance is using to send back in time. Like, I just thought these things were hard to get their hands on. I didn't realize they had like a whole bunch of them just to send back in time. Then why have they been sending one at a time in each movie? Doesn't make sense to me.
She's coming. TX, can you find a way to destroy her?
Unlikely. I'm an obsolete design.
The movie just feels like kind of B-grade movie action with, well, the effects are a lot better. Special effects, they're okay sometimes, other times not, but the movie did come out in 2003. Like, there's this really big chase scene in the movie where they're trying to escape the Terminatrix, and they're in cars, other cars are being controlled by the Terminatrix, and they're just trying to escape. And it gets really over the top. Like, there is a huge amount of destruction in that scene, and it gets really over the top, and there's hardly any dialogue during that chase scene, and there was no music either to kind of get what kind of feeling you should be feeling during that scene. But it just went on and on and on, and I just eventually lost interest in it. What I did like in that scene is that the T-800 has like weight to it. Like, Arnold like kicked over that ambulance when he was on that crane or whatever he was on, and when he gets damaged and those workers try to pick him up, and he go, oh damn, he's too heavy, and he jumps on the roof of the car, and the car roof compresses down. I'm like, oh good, he's a massive robot, so of course he has a lot of weight to him. I actually like that little detail, and I swear that chase scene is where most of the budget for the movie went. So should you see this movie? At this point I could say you could probably skip it, because with Dark Fate coming out, the timeline is diverging. So whether you watch these movies, it's really up to you. Terminator and Terminator 2 is where it's at. But if you want to see dumb action and have that has a dumb B-movie kind of vibe, or just want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger in another movie, then there is some entertainment value in this movie. It's certainly not as bad as future Terminator movies. But anyway, thank you again for listening to me ramble on about a movie for a few minutes. I do appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.